My definition of a father is someone, particularly a man, who is able to step in the role and handle the responsibilities of raising children.
Man, well, I mean, the technical definition, technically just a male who has helped in birthing a child, but to be a father, in my opinion, it would be that plus that male taking responsibility, action, and participate in the upbringing of that child or children.
The leader of the household, the patriarch of that household. I would say that's probably my comprehensive definition of a father.
Definitely be that example of a man in his children's life. So that's someone who cares for them, loves them, guides them, and really help them to understand what this world is all about. You should be their first teacher as a father.
Being a father, as far as changing the perspective of life in general, has been noteworthy in relation to just that kind of self-sacrifice you have to have, because you somewhat giving up your life to make sure that your children, your offspring, however it may be, maybe children you had, children you're raising, even children within the community, you're giving your expertise to them. And so that part of growth for you is extended to them. So it makes you even more selfless, I think.
Man, so being a father really, it softens you up on the hard parts and it hardens you up on the soft parts, is what I would say, you know, especially, so I had my daughter first. So having a daughter first, puts you really, it allows you to express your softer side as a man, because you want to show her how a dude should eventually treat her. So on certain aspects, you're harder or softer, but then on other aspects, when it comes to, okay, this is what I need to do to make sure I can protect this person, then you're harder. And then the boys are just the flip side of that. When you have boys, then you're harder because you jab them up or make sure that they're straight. And then on the softer side, when it comes down to showing them that men should have emotions. You shouldn't, that man up stuff. We killed that a long time ago. I think that was the worst advice that dudes ever had when they were little, was man up. That's the absolute worst thing you should do, because then you don't know how to express yourself as a man. So if you learn how to understand our softer side and be able to articulate and communicate what's going on, then that brings forth well-rounded children, whether that be a male or female.
It has illuminated several things for me. Personally, it has forced me to work on patience. It's forced me to work on tapping into emotions, and forced me to grow as an individual. Children have a way of helping you see things that you probably didn't know about yourself, and help you tap into things you probably never would have tapped into had they not been in your life. So I will say that several experiences have led me to this, but I know that I can say for sure that patience and tapping into emotions is definitely two of the most major areas of growth that I can tell after having kids.
Becoming a father really changed my perspective on life, because it let me know that the world was bigger than the little circle that I was living in prior to becoming a father. I've always had big dreams, but now I had to have big dreams for other people that I was responsible for. So it let me know that not only do I have to still dream big for myself, but then teach someone else how to dream big and then show them the way so that they'll know that whatever they dream is possible. And so that first starts with me, but I had to open up my world to be able to teach them and show them that anything is possible. It also helped me to realize that there was more responsibility that I had to take. Initially it was just, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna travel here, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna own this. But then it became about them. So it took the focus away from me and it put it on them to be able to really let them know that they are important to me. And then that once they look up to me for that example, they'll understand that they can do anything. And then I can remind them that this world is a great place because of them.
Not really. I think it becomes a thing where sometimes it's taboo when it comes to raising other, I guess, quote unquote, other people's children. But at the same time, if you're that sphere of influence, if you're that person that is there to play that role and you embrace that role, then you should play that role to the fullest.
Absolutely. So my parents were married until I was like 11. Then they got divorced. So I got the dad side, and then being the single dad side, then I got the stepfather ultimately too. So yeah, my dad was very, very active, even after the divorce. I mean, like that was like my best friend all the way up until I was 18. So yeah, me and my dad are like super, super close.
My father was the provider and protector in our family. And a lot of those skill sets, a lot of those examples that he set, I believe that I have carried some of those on, as being the head of my household now. He was always available, if I needed to chat with him. I also watched him do a lot of things as far as, doing housework around the house or being, even working on paying bills. I watched him. So I know that while he might not have technically showed me how to do things, I recognized that he was showing me things that I would eventually need to know as an adult. So it was great to have him around. And he also had a very nice sense of humor, so he was also fun to be around as well.
Right. Well, I mean, as an overall man or dad, it shows, I've seen and then I also experienced it. So I'm glad I had a model to experience on how to actually handle, having to leave the household and still do what you were supposed to do. So it was never an excuse. My dad never had an excuse. I mean, he had to work 2 jobs, he had to find a new place to live, and he still had to make time, both financially and physically and emotionally, to still provide for, his kids, and that mental part is definitely the most important part because, he could have packed it in, whatever, paid child support and just went on about his business, but he was still the same dad. And then once you get to adult life and realize how hard that had to have been to continue to do some of that stuff, you don't have a choice but to, to make sure you do at least that much.
Knowing I have that responsibility to protect the lives that I've created, and in my case, not created. I have a 16-year-old stepdaughter, which we've never went to the stepdaddy role, or as far as name, but I've been in her life since 1.5. And so, along with an 11-year-old biological son. And so I take that responsibility seriously. It's one of those things that that is the number one role that I have as a man. And being a married man within our circle, that is my job, and I take it greatly. I hold that responsibility true and to the utmost, because ultimately they are supposed to carry on the legacy once I leave this world. So I need to make sure that they're in place and in the right place for them to actually do that.
So that's like a badge of honor, you know. We want to make sure that the goal is always that your kids could be in a better position than you. So when you're looking out, when you're trying to raise them, when you're trying to tell them things, when you're trying to teach them how to do things, especially now, you know, being like my oldest is in the real world to a certain extent now. So in the world is different. So it's like, as a parent, you have to try to keep up with the world so you can figure out ways to protect your kids from it. So I was a former school teacher, so that helped me too. So I was around teenagers all the time. So I'm trying to keep up with the dances, keep up with the terminology and all that. So I've been kind of out of that for a while, but just being the dad that was trying to always make sure that he understood what was going on in the world and what's going on in teenager, young people's lives, I think has been the most beneficial for me as far as raising my kids.
I would have to say that it's rewarding, but at the same time, somewhat scary. You know, we live in a different time than what we did when we were growing up. And, you know, some of the stuff that's happening around us, you know, sometimes it resonates with you even more because you have kids that are in school, or you have kids that are with their friends, and you see stuff on the news or hear about stuff on social media, and it just, sometimes it can make you anxious. But as long as you know that you're investing in your children and know your children, you have a pretty good feeling whether or not they'll do the right thing. So while it might sometimes feel like it's overwhelming, I know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a father in terms of pouring into them, I feel pretty good.
Well, it's, you know, when I had my children, I had my daughter when I was 18 years old. So I was young, learning to grow into a man, but yet I had the responsibility of being a parent. And then my son came along, and then I had a double responsibility to raise these children and teach them something that I didn't necessarily know for myself. But that responsibility for me, it helped me to understand that I had some things that I had to do to make sure that I was prepared to do it, because these two people were dependent on me to show them the way. And I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the best examples. I had to learn on the fly, so I made some mistakes. But the biggest thing I wanted my kids to know was that even when I make mistakes, that doesn't mean I don't love you. That doesn't mean that, you know, things aren't going to work out. I'm going to always work hard. I'm going to always overcome my mistakes because I have that responsibility for you. And likewise, I hope to instill in them those same things that years later, I would like to think they learned some things and that they would duplicate that process.
Wow. I would give, the advice I would give, number one, is to prepare yourself, but don't think you have to play the same role as somebody else in fatherhood. I think a lot of times you're going to grow. You're going to see people that you may have emulated, you see on TV, who may be the perfect father in your eyes, but you're going to make mistakes. You know, just like in anything else, you're not going to be perfect. But the ability to be able to bounce back from that, and just to continue to show the kind of leadership that you need for your household is paramount. It's not one of those things where you're going to be, you know, for lack of a better term, you're not going to be Cliff Huxtable, but you can be the best father that you can be.
Oh, what advice would I give a new father? I mean, just be there. I mean, that's 90% of the battle, is being there. Be real with your kids. You know, we try not to sugarcoat we protect our kids, but we try not to sugarcoat. That's, because these kids are different. So they not having that "I told you so" stuff that our parents used to do. "I told you so," and then we like, all right, cool. I told you so, and you're gonna do it, but this is the reason why. So it's more explanation, and because these kids get everything that's handed to them, Google, phones, and all that. So it's 99% information just out there. So information gonna be out there. They can find it no matter what. But is it the right information? So you need to be informed, and then you need to explain to these kids a little bit more than what we had, because we didn't have that much information when we were growing up. So now it's too much information that you need to make sure that the information you want your kid to have comes from you instead of from the internet or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or the video games and TV shows with all the stuff that's kind of put in there. It needs to come from you.
I would have to give them the advice that fatherhood there's not an easy button. And this is not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon. And everything that you might see work for someone else might not necessarily work for you. So you have to enjoy that journey. And there'll be some highs and some lows, but you just have to press through and persevere.
The best advice I would give to a new father is, number one, be available. I hear sometimes people say the best ability is availability. And for a lot of us, in particular Black men, most of us didn't, or a lot of us, I should say, didn't have fathers in the home or examples of good fathers. So we had to figure it out in the streets. We had to figure it out from television or figure it out from somebody that we thought was a good dad and not really understanding it. And so for a young dad or new dad, the best ability is availability. So be there, be a part of their lives. Again, even if you make mistakes, even if you don't know all the things to do, all the right things to say, if you are there, you can overcome them together. You can teach in those moments. I know, for example, when I started out as a dad and didn't know, because I didn't have a good example for myself, I made a lot of mistakes that I had to overcome, but I could do that because I was there. And I could tell my children, I'm sorry, I didn't know how to do this, but they understood because I was there. I was a part of their lives. I was involved. I was at the school meetings, and I was at the games and things like that, being that support. So a new dad, a new father, whether they're young or whether they're old and this is the first time, just be there and always have that love for your children.
Wow. The legacy I would like to leave behind for my children is that hard work does put you in a good place. I was a provider and protector, and I took that job seriously. I came from a legacy of it's kind of crazy. It's my biological father didn't raise me. My stepfather raised me, and he just passed away in August. And so this will be the first Father's Day without him. So it's kind of crazy in that situation. But what I can say was he was an imperfect man by all stretches of the imagination. But he instilled so much, and it's so much that I could see in me, even not being his biological child, but the values and mores he kind of instilled. I kind of live by now, and I see the kinds of things he was trying to tell me then. So work hard, take care of home, and everything else will fall into place.
Oh man, now that's a family. That Jones name. That's like a family thing. We're helpers, so it's naturally in them to help other people. Just now, again, as we try to build legacy, we want them to do it more responsibly than we help everybody, anybody, and all that. So now we need, hey, Dad did this. You need to understand the boundaries that go with being a helper. It's in your spirit to help everybody, but you can't help everybody without losing some of you. So you have to pick and choose your battles, understand people. People are people, they're gonna people. That's what they're here for. So you have to understand, and being a person with a helpful nature, to make sure that you still protect you, your sanity, your time, your peace, your finances, your family, and still be able to accomplish the goals and the purpose that you have for your life?
I like my children, or the legacy I like to leave for my children is I like for them to be good stewards. I know I grew up being a good steward of everything my parents poured into me, you know, taking care of others, taking care of myself, taking care of the things I were blessed with. So I hope that I am a great example of being a good steward in terms of, in their eyes, so that they can take that with them as they grow older into teenagers and adults.
The biggest legacy I love to leave with my children is love. To me, everything starts with love. Everything builds from love. And if love is your foundation, anything can happen. And of course, by being a spiritual person, that love comes through Jesus Christ. And so if I can instill Jesus Christ in them, the example of love, and then show them what my journey has been to get to this point, then hopefully they can take that and they can pass it down to their children, which now I have 3 grandsons. So this legacy is going to continue through them. Hopefully what I've instilled in my children, showing them love, being there for them, doing what I had to do, sacrificing to make sure that they had a good life, that they'll be able to pass that down to their children and show them the same love. And then that just goes for generation to generation.
How does it feel letting go? It's one of those processes where I think everyone has to have that rite of passage. As much as I worry about this world and what it does to corrupt certain things, you can't live in a shell and be a hermit. So I rely on what me and her mom were able to do as far as instilling the values necessary and allow her growth to be able to grow from mistakes that she may make. I think it's a thing where she pretty much knows what she's doing, and just preparedness in general. That letting go process has been tough because you want to make sure that, you know, these kids are different than us. They have different experiences. They have different things they have to face now. And so being prepared for that is what we've tried to do. But along with that, just making sure that those mistakes you make are your final mistakes, and so that you can grow from. Bring us into that world.
Oh man, that's easy, man. We in Georgia, man. You can carry a gun anytime you want to now. Man, this is nothing now, man. Look, letting go for me is not hard, because I felt I raised my daughter the right way. It's technically been just me and her the last decade. So she's been around dad. She's seen dad treat her. She's seen dad treat other people. So letting go is not the hard part. Now, me having to catch her or help her not fall, that's the part that nerves you, especially being in the Atlanta area. We got, sex trafficking, all kind of crazy stuff that's going on in this city. So you always want, even though I'm at home by myself, I'm always kind of like, she's straight. I haven't heard from her a couple of days. Hey, check in. Let's make sure that you're okay. Make sure you're not drinking anything that you didn't see somebody pop something in it. So it's still teaching, but as far as being an adult, I pulled back and allow her to, make her mistakes. Also, get her first successes as an adult.
Let me see. I don't know how you want me to say this because I'm gonna try to keep it family oriented, but it wasn't pretty. All right. So as a young teenage father to 2 children by 2 different women, it wasn't easy. I was in college and still trying to plan my life and become a man. It was difficult to kind of get a good hold on it because now I have these 2 young children to deal with. I still have school to deal with. Now I'm dealing with 2 different mothers So it was a very difficult thing. And again, because I didn't have that example for myself, no woman in my family was married. So I continue this curse, if you will, of having children out of wedlock. And so I had to figure out how to maneuver that, as well as find my own way in life. I was still in college, not even sure what major I was going to pursue. And yet I have to figure out how to be a father to 2 children. Fortunately, I married my son's mother, and she helped me raise my children. And she taught me a lot of things about raising children, because she came from a 2-parent household where she had some examples and expectations, whereas I didn't. So her introduction to me after we got married was a big help in how we were going to raise the children and what we were going to instill in them. But we had a different dynamic than most husband and wife. Usually the dad is the hard, stern one, the disciplinarian, and the wife is the softer nurturer. Well, we were flipped in this situation. My wife was the disciplinarian. She was the hard one. She was the one that was more or stricter when it came to certain things. And I was coddling them. And she was like, you got to let them go. You got to give them some space. They got to bump their heads. And I was like, no, them's my babies. I didn't want to see them get hurt the way that I did growing up because of not having a covering. And I thought overprotecting them was protecting them. And it wasn't, because it only created this facade to them to where they wanted to see outside of that bubble that I created for them. And it was hard for me. But I had to trust, through the help of my wife, I had to trust that what we instilled in them, they were going to eventually bring out. As the Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should go. And then when they're older, they won't depart from it. So I had to trust the things that we were learning and studying, and believe that all the morals and values that we were instilling in them, they were going to bring back, which wasn't an easy thing for me, but I did have to kind of release them a little bit. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very proud of them. They grew up to be fantastic adults and now parents themselves. And so I think my wife and I did a great job of instilling in them the things that they needed to be successful.
The things that y'all like to do together?
Man, all the time. We go to the park. That's our thing. Especially during COVID. Like, we had to wait until, late at night to go to the park so they can finally just run around and us play soccer and stuff like that. And, the daughter likes to just put on her headphones and just walk. So that's what we did. That's what we do. We still do it, even during the summer. But even just this week, practicing driving. She doesn't have a license yet, but she wants to get them. So I'm out teaching her how to drive, and that is the most nerve-wracking thing ever in life, because she doesn't know that, you can smoothly press the brake and stop instead of jamming on the brakes. So you don't have to do what you're doing. You can just turn the wheel slow, those kinds of things, and it's not a driver's ed car where I have the brake on my side. Right. So, so just those lighthearted moments. With my son, he swears he's a scientist. Like, he's playing with Pine Sol last night for no reason. He saw me mop the floor with some Pine Sol, and now he wants to see what it does. So, like, pouring into stuff, like, he's just into everything. And him being excited about, animation, and because that's what he wants to do. He wants to do, computer-aided graphics and stuff like that. That's what he wants to do. It's nothing else that appeases to him except soccer and that. So just seeing them in lighthearted moments where they're teasing each other, man, it's the greatest joy ever. It really is.
Man, that was terrible. It was terrible for a while. And the reason why it was terrible at first is because I've been raising my daughter, and girls are a lot more self-sufficient in the high school and middle school ages. So I hadn't really had to do that. Check behind your homework, make sure the room's clean, all that stuff. So that was a terrible part about it. It was like, oh man, you hide homework you do homework and not turn it in, and you got your computer off, and you're making faces to your teacher and all that stuff. So it was already the pressure of being trapped like everybody else was in COVID, but then having to do stuff that I hadn't done in so long on that aspect because again, my daughter was like, hey, the lowest grade you can get is 85 period, get it done, and she got it done. The boys, little boys, they a little different. So we had to check stuff and recheck stuff. But with that being said, even in total carnage, you still want your tribe there. Like I wouldn't trade that for anything. Having them there, it was hard enough leaving in North Carolina and moving away from my sons like at younger age. So you're talking about they were both like under 10 when I left North Carolina to move to Georgia. So that's really hard for a dad that really cared. That even when me and my ex-wife were split, it was like a week on, a week off. So I was still full-time dad, and then I still had my daughter. So like I said, for the last 10 years, there hasn't been longer than 2 or 3 or 4 days where I didn't have a kid at all in the last decade. So, we had to do what we had to do. So COVID was challenging, but like I said, we got it together. I enjoy doing all that stuff that a lot of people don't do, cooking, because we like to eat. So if you can eat, we can cook, we can get it. So it was carnage at first, but it's kind of the family carnage that goes along with being somebody raising kids by themselves anyway.
Having them is fun. They have definitely 2 different personalities, 2 different temperaments. And from time to time when they play, you can see those actually shine through. So he's the laid back one and she's the assertive one sometimes. So it's interesting to watch their dynamic when they play. And some of the things that we do, we definitely spend a lot of time together on the weekends. I generally have them half of the weekend. And, from time to time, I try to do my best to make sure that, if we mix in a little bit of, running errands, that we also have some time for, doing fun things as well. So, I've taken them riding bikes, taken them to the park, taking them to birthday parties, I had my fair share of different events and try to get out there too, especially sometimes I find myself on playground equipment I don't know how I get out of, but I know I had to go in there and get her, so, that's my father had put on my protector hat going up there and get my baby, so. But we do have fun and they get along for the most part pretty well. So I'm happy about that.
Well, Anaya and Landon, my best advice for you is to go live those dreams, those impossible dreams, while you still have a chance. Don't hold back. Go live life as it's intended to be lived.
Don't do it. Reconsider. No. Read some literature. I know what I would give my kids as far as advice would be to be better than me. Take everything that you feel I've done good and do it better. Take everything that you feel I've done not so good and figure out a way to do that better. If you do that, then you'll be much better than me, and that means you'll be great. I'm all right, even good at times, but if you do the worst things I've done better and then do the best things I've done even better, then you'll be great.
Mr. Andrew, I love you, son, and I love your energy. I love the fact that you love people, and I pray that you continue to do that. Grace. I love your, I was about to say energy. That's probably the same thing that she has too, but she has a different energy. You have an energy that is constructive, yet sometimes can be deconstructive. I want you to maintain that energy as you grow older and hope that you're able to harness it positively.
To my daughter, Britt, I love you. I'm very proud of you. And I just say, keep doing what you're doing. You have given me 2 fantastic grandsons, and through them, your legacy is going to continue. I love you. Just keep doing what you're doing and always put God first. To my son, Brad, same thing. I love you so much. I'm proud of you. You have become a man that even because of my shortcomings and things that I didn't do right as an example, you've still persevered and you're doing fantastic things. And I'm proud of you. I love you. And I'm going to tell you to put your son first. And no matter what happens, be that dad that you've always wanted me to be and that you always claimed that you would be. I love you.
A role model, a support system, strength, a daughter's love, compassion, love, just a beautiful space that just fills my heart daily. Yeah.
Definition of a father is someone who can protect not only the children, but the neighbors, the community, church members, organizational leaders, someone that is just looked at as the go-to. My dad was really, honestly, when you think of a village, he was the one where most of my family call him Ed, and my cousins will call him Uncle Ed Lee because his name was Eddie Lee McCray. And so when I think of how important he was and how integral he was, it wasn't just my household. It was everyone that knew that he was dependable and reliable and a God-fearing man. It was like, oh, Uncle Ed Lee is good with his hands, or, even as a brother to his sisters, because it was a large family, his siblings, it was always like, well, we need somebody to come and repair this and look at the car, and I broke down. And I had to deal with that growing up because I had to share my dad with so many people. And it wasn't restricted to just blood. It was everybody. And so he wasn't just important to me, but the importance of our relationship was actually to witness how he treated everyone, regardless of who they were. And he treated them like, that they were his family.
It's very important. Well, for one, and in a home, it's important to have that structure. You need to have that nice balance between masculinity and feminine energy when raising a child. There's certain skills that a child will get from the mother as well as the father. There's certain patience that the fathers are able to exercise when the mothers can't. There's just certain ways that men and women communicate differently. So I feel to have a very healthy, well-rounded individual, it's very good to have both parents in the home. And also the father's the foundation, so.
Well, a present father's role is very important, only because most times when we grow older and we are looking for stability and we're looking for masculine, a foundation, we look to our dad. So it's very important that a present father is in the household.
A lot. I have a lot of firsts with my father, which is so amazing to be able to say. My father, he is a musician, so I grew up with a studio in my home. So I grew up around, musicians. So he was my first teacher on the drums, the piano, the flute. But beyond that, my father taught me how to swim. He taught me how to tumble. We skate together. Just a lot of those amazing activities I got to do with my father because my mother was not the one.
My daddy, not Zaddy, daddy. Very impactful. I would say from a little girl, just was kind of like my buddy. Like, a little doll baby, like that's all I was. Like I was always at his heels, wanting to do what he did, even from yay high. So me and my father's relationship, my daddy as I call him, he would do whatever, whenever, however. Some of those things I didn't need, but he also understood that aspect too. So very, very important figure in my life.
Man, it's a blessing. It's truly a gift. And when I think about the relationship that I have with my father, and I think about the space that he fills in my life daily, and just how I live every day, I judge every man based on my father.
When you also think about relationships, interpersonal relationships, it was just really like my best friend, like my best first encounter with somebody that would be just so spontaneous and fun and alive, and I can count on to do anything that I wanted to do. He was open and just ready to explore. And even though he worked very hard throughout the week, it was never him being, fatigued or tired after work. It was, yes, we would eat dinner as a family, and then it was like, oh, I want to read this book. Okay, Daddy, one more book, and then one more book. And then it's like 8 to 10 books before bedtime.
For me, this is very different because my brother was very active in my life, and he's older. So at times, he actually operated as a father, or he thought he was. But I would say that I love you so much. I thank you so much for being a light in my life, helping to guide me into the woman that I am today. And even though I know at times it's hard not to be stubborn and not to be selfish, I thank you so much for allowing me to share our space in our family. And I thank you so much for always being there, and I always love you.
Well, my love letter to my father, just the first or second face that I saw coming into this world is I believe that men, including him, are such pure and beautiful beings. I also believe that when they have a love for their daughters, it's a special kind of love. It's a love that many would kill for. So I would say my love letter to my dad is one of gratitude. Daddy, I love you, and I appreciate everything you've done for me and the rest of the family. And I know they don't make them like you no more. So I really love you. I adorn you. And I just thank you for having so much grace and poise and being able to do things for me, for Mom, for my siblings, being able to do it even though that there was a lot of pressure busting pipes. You were always smooth, calm, collected, and you were such an amazing example of which, even though I'm a female, I too want to follow your lead not in being strong, rigorous, or robust, but just the gentle giant that you were to me and so many others. And for the men out there, I say keep your head up. For those who have family, whether everyone's under one roof or scattered or blended, just know that each one of you have a heart of gold. And I believe that's why you do every single thing that you can in order to be a leading example, not only for your family, but for those who are witnessing your walk. So I say thank you and keep pressing forward.
Dad, brother, son, and friend. Some may even call you uncle, but I'm proudest to wear the name Dad. Protector, provider, the fun parent, the enforcer. Doesn't scratch the surface as to what we are. To you, our child, our greatest gift to this world. Alongside your mom, we will move earth for you. Son and daughter, I don't always get it right, but one thing's for sure, and two things are for certain. My God will guide me, and we will walk through this thing together. Son, I'm not the man I'm training you to be, and baby girl, I haven't always been the man I'm praying for you to be with. But know I'm training you to be better than me. Use me as a compass, a guide to what you want and more. Know you will make mistakes, you will stumble and maybe even fall. But my prayer is that what has been instilled in you is far greater and will be your help. Grow, learn, give, love, and protect. 5 things your dad wants to impress upon you. Growing up is a treasure. Be proud of your age, because some didn't make it this far. Learn something new daily or weekly. Never stop wanting knowledge. Give of yourself, but always use discernment, because people will be people. Love. Even in heartbreak, be grateful for the opportunity to love. And remember, God is love. Protect those who may not be able to protect themselves. Be a leader amongst your people and stand for something. Men, we as fathers have a great duty placed on us. Although life may knock us down 10 times, we must get back up 11 more. As our imperfect selves, God has graced us for this journey, but we must stay connected to God and each other for help, guidance, and encouragement. Although society tries its hardest to minimize our roles based on a few knuckleheads, know, kings, that you matter. Your mental health matters, so live like you matter, love like you matter, and give to your family, because our kids need you. Our families need you. This world needs you. You matter to this world and are needed in this world, fathers. Love you, kings.